Socialism. My political ideology is socialism. If that's all you needed, you can head out right now. If you wanted something a bit more in-depth, allow me to explain what I mean by that. While socialism is a pretty broad ideology with a ton of different interpretations, my interpretation of it comes from very basic roots. I believe that if there's someone struggling, we should help them. And in this world, there are a lot of people struggling, unable to see a doctor and get medicine because they can't afford it, unable to get proper nutrition or hydration because they can't afford it, unable to have a proper home because they can't afford it. Notice the common ending of those statements. They can't afford it. Why is profit the thing that dictates whether or not people get these basic needs of survival? And why do we continue to uphold an economic system that allows for these people to continue to suffer? Because it works, quote unquote? A system where one man owning more wealth than 147 countries is considered working is a system that I don't believe deserves our support. Especially when there are other systems that work better in basically every sense, moral and practical. Take healthcare, for instance. The US is supposedly the greatest nation in the world. We have a lot of money, we have a lot of tech, and yet somehow the concept of giving everybody healthcare, regardless of whether they can pay for it, which is commonplace all over the globe, is somehow elusive to us. Morally, this would help millions of people in the country that do not have the ability to pay for healthcare and prevents people from slipping through the cracks. And as every single study in this subject has concluded, in a practical sense, this helps because the United States would actually save money through this type of system. So why don't we have it? Now, either every single person who has done research into this topic and every single other nation in the world is somehow wrong, or it could have something to do with the fact that we live in a system where the health insurance lobby can actually spend billions of dollars to prevent politicians from passing something like this. As is the case with every single lobbyist group. If we are to have a monetary-based economic system, why would we not have it so that people are paid what they need to survive? And if that is not possible in this system, why should we not just then change the system so that we can make it possible? Where we either give them the money to be able to afford the things they need to survive, or simply just give them the things they need to survive. Because it quote-unquote doesn't work? Based on what metrics? Basically, every other nation around the world has implemented policies at some point in their history that has taken us at least one step closer to having a system like that. And not all of them end in crashing failure. Socially, I'd identify as a progressive. Most of the same general ideas apply here as well. There are a lot of people who are struggling in the US based on things like sex, gender, sexual orientation, race, religion, etc. And rather than continuing to do the things that hurt them, I would much rather help them, make it so that they cannot be discriminated against, so that they can be happy and live the lives they want, addressing the systemic oppression that they have faced in the past, and making sure that it ends for future generations. Socially reactionary rhetoric has never led to anything positive, so it is best to combat it wherever we see it. It's the 21st century, so I do not understand why a boy kissing another boy is so ewy to some of you, or a guy praying in Arabic, or a person who was assigned female at birth, growing a beard and wanting to be addressed by a masculine name. Where's the problem? What's the issue? I have yet to hear a convincing moral or practical argument as to why people being happy in their lives is some sort of problem that has any basis in reality. All it is just a fear of things you don't understand. A fear that has manifested in hurting people. A thing that I never want to happen again. And a simple live and let live attitude isn't enough. When people's civil and human rights are being oppressed, we must fight for them, like great people have done in the past. Empowering the people is a top priority. The ideals of democracy and populism are ultimately good, despite the fact that both have been used for bad things in the past. While we live in a world of governments, they should derive their power from the will of the people, whether that means allowing the people to directly make decisions, or by making sure that the system is truly fair to everyone involved. If a system is put in place that stands in the way of people getting their will, barring very rare exceptions, it should be disposed of. A system that makes the vote of one man be worth more than another, a system that forces people to choose two crappy options, a system that allows officials to explicitly ignore the will of the people, archaic systems of the past that people need to overcome in order for us to actually give power back to the people. And this sort of system should not be limited to the government. Any hierarchy-based system where power is held by one must be dealt away with. One issue that is common for Americans to talk about a lot is foreign policy. While the exact label I have used varies, I broadly believe that it is best for the United States to prioritize peace over war. The US has used its military to push for their geopolitical interests, be it outright colonialism of yesteryear, or the modern-day equivalent that pillages countries of their own resources that are to be sold as commodities here, to the detriment of everyone involved. The boys we send to die, the people at home left behind while we prioritize violence, the people we kill in the name of freedom, and the nations we steal resources from. Nobody benefits from this decision. Well, actually, scratch that. There are some who benefit. The merchants of death that supply us with weapons, the corporations that benefit from stealing the resources, and the politicians they funnel millions to. Some may call it anti-imperialism, some may call it radical pacifism, some might even be naive to call it non-interventionism. Regardless of the title you call it, the basic idea remains the same to me. Violence should be the last resort. The US should not force imperialistic regimes on other nations, and we should allocate the resources spent on that harm back to our communities. And I should remind you again, what is the root reason behind these wars? Because a few people profit from it. Now you may notice the way I've described my beliefs. No mention of a particular theorist or politician or book that opened my eyes to the truth. Because while I of course have many theorists, politicians, and books that have molded my philosophy over the years, I do not hold any of them as gospel, nor blindly follow them to the ends of the earth. If they do bad things, I will denounce them. If they make an error in their judgment, I will call them out. If there is a part of the book that is wrong, I won't adhere to the chapter. And if something about my viewpoint is wrong, I will gladly adapt my perspective to account for that. It's also why I've refrained from calling myself specific versions of socialism, particularly the named ideologies. I take the positive elements of all the schools of leftist thought and lump it into my broader political thinking. And if a conservative is finally able to explain something in a way that makes sense, I'll adapt some of that into my ideology too. However, there are a lot of people on the left who do not necessarily agree with that perspective, where they will hold certain thinkers on a very high pedestal and decry anybody who expresses disagreement with anything they have said or done as not real leftists. A thing that has caused a lot of disunity among left-wing movements. We're not perfect either. Sometimes we say things and we get it wrong. And rather than simply hiding that away and not talking about it, we need to confront that. Again, we live in the 21st century. Maybe we shouldn't be basing our entire political outlook on one book written by one guy in the 1800s. That same logic has been used to spread things like religion, that has been used to try and push back against literal scientific and social progress, both past and present. However, banning that would be ludicrous. Instead, what must be done is prioritizing making sure everyone has access to the same high-quality information, while of course combating propaganda and misinformation, particularly in things like science, history, and critical thinking, and barriers that prevent people from accessing said knowledge should be broken down. Most of which, again, revolving around the concept of money, whether it be directly paying for said access to information, or that access to information being hidden behind something like a copyright or a patent. The truth should be out there regardless of what side of the aisle it allegedly favors. Since I'm aware some people love misinterpreting socialists, allow me to list some figures that I would say best represent my broad ideological outlook in no particular order. Bernie Sanders, Eugene V. Debs, Martin Luther King Jr., Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Chuy Garcia, Robert M. La Follette Sr., Floyd B. Olson, Vito Marcantonio, Meyer London, Victor Berger, Henry Wallace, Keith Ellison, Barbara Lee, Lawrence Lessig, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, Lázaro Cárdenas, Emiliano Zapata, Lula da Silva, Hugo Chavez, Jose Mujica, Salvador Allende, and Jeremy Corbyn. I could list a whole lot more, but those are the ones that probably give you the best general idea. I'm happy to answer more specifics in the comments, but I think you kind of get the idea by now, especially since this is year 7 of this channel. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the bell to notify when a future video of mine comes out. And if you're interested in more content from me, consider supporting me on Patreon.